Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. The first thing a new supervisor should do is to meet and know the people. Never get in the way of a jerk trying to destroy their career. They'll just drag you down with them. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. A coworker disrespected our boss, and I let him drown. This happened about a decade ago at another company. I worked in a decently sized team of engineers. Me and another guy we'll call John were junior in the team and from a similar cultural background, which I guess he took to mean that we were destined to be friends. LOL. For a few weeks or a month or two, it seemed that we were in the honeymoon phase of a new job and relationship, meeting up with our newly minted work friends and learning a lot and making silly mistakes, laughing them off and staying late to fix them. Typical new job stuff. Our team was strong and we had good senior engineers who were honestly probably some of the best professionals I've met in a while, since they provided the rare mix of guidance and space to help us and point us in the right direction, but not do things for us. The only unusual thing about our team was our boss is a lady. We'll call her Kate. Nothing wrong with that, obviously. It's just that that specific company at that specific location at that specific time had almost no women. Now, being a normal, healthy person, I barely noticed and certainly didn't care about Kate's gender. She was a very good boss who I got along with great. Maybe since we have similar personalities. And frankly, she was the reason I stayed at that job long after I'd hit my ceiling there. Anyway, in time, I noticed that John did not seem to respect Kate or take her seriously. He'd be more likely to listen to male senior engineers and pay attention. In fact, at one point, we had a meeting with Kate that he happened to miss, where she gave us some direction. I personally didn't agree with the idea and didn't think it was the best way to do things or would even work. So when we later had a small meeting with John, a senior engineer named Mike, who explained the way forward to start the meeting, and another guy working on that part of our task, I raised my concerns and explained why I wasn't confident about it. John basically laughed at me and said that Mike knew what he was doing and my concerns were all overblown. I was so shocked by him throwing me under the bus in public like that when we were supposedly friends. All I remember doing is kind of staring at him and then explaining, well, actually it was Kate's idea. He got quiet and kind of awkward and said, "Oh." And then, believe it or not, he actually asked me to reiterate my concerns and took them a lot more seriously. For the record, I was mostly wrong and Kate was right. My only win was tweaking a tiny part of what we did, which worked pretty well. This was the first time that I began to believe that John actually had a problem with Kate due to her being a woman. Before that, we were still new in the job, and he had kind of a funny personality where he'd act really high energy and extroverted, like he was constantly faking it. I began to pay a lot of attention to the rare occasions he interacted with women, and yep, talking to the big boss's admin assistant, rude and dismissive. Ignores the front desk lady's good morning. We go out for lunch, mean to the waitress, who's just a kid for F's sakes. Eventually, I had a one-on-one with Kate and kind of danced around my concerns with John. I didn't directly say that I thought he had a problem with women and kind of saw them as not worthy of the same respect that he gave to men, but she caught on and basically said that she's aware and has dealt with it before, and it just comes with the neighborhood in this industry. Well, that's not going to do it all, I said to myself. By now, John's attitude had devolved pretty significantly. He began to act like he was the big man and was now better than our initial friendship. He'd hang out with the senior engineers and make loud, edgy jokes, spend a lot of time at the coffee machine just laughing and currying favor with others while I was busy working. More than once, he tried to offload his work onto me, and more than once, he succeeded, because I'm a living doormat. Even so, I had a plan, and it was, if I can flatter myself, beautiful in how simple it was. We got a few new tasks from Kate. These were pretty complex and technical in nature, and to be honest, were not something a newbie could just do alone. You need to ask a lot of questions and do a lot of talking to seniors and other stakeholders before you can get to a decent answer. For similar tasks in the past, I'd simply set up meetings for John and I to meet with others and take notes, come up with future actions, etc. Just figured I was being a good team player by being responsible and seizing efficiencies, etc. But I realized at some point it had the effect of me mostly doing the annoying legwork for John and a lot of the technical work too. Imagine conversations like, "Hey dude, can you show me how to make this Excel thing work?" And then I go off and basically do it for him. Anyway, what I did was simple. I didn't help John. I did not set up meetings for his project, just mine, where I met with seniors and chugged through my stuff. I didn't walk over to John's desk to ask him about advice for my project or see where he was with his. At one point early on, he did ask me how to calculate something, which I didn't know off the top of my head, so I said that I don't know. I met with Kate and a few seniors to present my project. I'd like to say I knocked it out of the park, but honestly, there were significant problems. Still, they seemed pleased by my efforts, and mostly that I had an 80% solution in 50% of the time. Word of the wise, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And there's value with providing a mostly but not totally complete project to your boss to make sure you're on the right track and giving them some job satisfaction by letting them put that final polish on it. I got kudos, and that was that. A couple of weeks later, the actual project due date's bearing down on us. John starts freaking out and asking me where I am with mine and how I did it, and I casually say, "Oh yeah, dude, I finished that ages ago and presented it." And he looks at me like I'm an alien. He asked for my material, which I gladly point him to, which didn't help him much since our projects were pretty different. Again, he tries to bug me to do his work for him, but again, I simply say, I don't know. I didn't actually attend the meeting that I'm told followed. From what I heard, it was obvious that John not only executed very poorly, he simply hadn't put much effort into it. And when Kate asked him questions and stuff in the meeting, remember she was his boss, he was nasty and dismissive and tried to get the seniors on the team to join him in ganging up on her, which didn't work, because again, she was the boss. He might have hung around for another month or two before he was out, never asked if he quit or was fired, never heard, and didn't really care. I just found him on LinkedIn, and it appears his career languished for a while after that. Meanwhile, Kate was promoted a few times, and so was I, until I became a senior engineer where I hit my ceiling as described. She continued to be an excellent boss, even while I went through some pretty nasty personal business, and we've kept in touch over the years. So the moral of the story is, women are people too, including when they're your boss. Treat people respectfully and don't neglect your job duties, or else I'll simply let you drown. And our next story. No, you'll have your wedding somewhere else. I, 33-year-old female, planned a surprise party for my husband's 40th birthday over Labor Day weekend, inviting friends and family from out of state. Our building has a seldom-used large rec room with outside space. For a fee, reservations can be made at the front desk concierge or via the residence app. I reserved all day of the 4th back in July via the concierge. Saturday morning, a friend and I find decorations on the tables and food out when we went to decorate the room. Assuming this was left over from the night before, I went down to the front desk and asked they send someone up to help clean from the night before, a service covered by deposit. When I get back, my friend is in an argument with a group of people. The group's claiming it's reserved by them for a wedding. We go back and forth a bit, neither of us backing down. The man sent up to clean grabs the concierge, who confirmed I had the reservation for Saturday the 4th. One group member, assuming groom, claims they booked via the app in May, but do not have a confirmation email, and when asked for any proof of deposit, he said it's free to use. To me, it's evident they never booked it or did not complete the booking. The space is free only without reservation. It's now 10 a.m. Their wedding's supposed to be at 2. My guests arrive at 6. The group suggests I move to the next day. Not possible. We had other plans. They propose using the space for their wedding until 5:30 p.m. Again, I said no. The bride whines that it's not fair, they had to postpone from 2020, all venues are booked now, and how she settled for this set so she could get married before she can't fit into her dress because she's pregnant. My friend and I don't buy it. My reply was along the lines of, why book this room 4 months out if you were only settling on it because you're pregnant? Your failure to plan and pregnancy are entirely your problem, as is finding a new venue. My friend suggested they try to use the space by the grills and pool. The concierge had them moved, citing the reservation and deposit in my name. My husband's party went as planned and was a great time. Today, a neighbor and I were unlucky enough to be in the elevator with the bride. When getting out, she audibly muttered, "B" at me. I filled her in on the drama. She sides with the couple, saying I should have just moved our party to the grill since it was only a birthday. Thing is, I paid the deposit. We can't have alcohol by the pool, and I wanted to make use of the pool tables and shuffleboards in the rec room. But now I have doubts if I was an a-hole or not. And our last story. My parents had enough of the neighbor. So this all begins in the summer of 2006. Neither of my parents had gone to college. My dad's what you call a bootstrapper in the business world, and my mom had been a secretary at a hospital for 20 years. By this time, my dad's company was doing well, and my mother was reaching the top of her pay grade. They sent us to a small private school because we lived in the inner city and the public school system wasn't the greatest. They finally get to a financial standpoint where they can purchase a house in a much nicer suburb. The house they purchased needed a lot of work, and so we did it. All of it. Complete interior renovation, where they could afford it, of course. We moved in the summer of 2007, and we learned quick about the neighbor next door. We cut down some dead trees around the property and ground some stumps. The stump grindings were no longer than a week before we get a visit from the township. Someone had called about the stump grindings. Stuff like this continues on for a while. The worst part is our neighbor's disregard for our property. Spraying the weeds along his fence line, killing grass more than a foot into our yard, having a tree cut down in his yard and okaying them to drive into our driveway through our yard into his yard instead of driving through his yard, stuff like that. My dad confronts him, and of course the sheriff shows up the next day. The neighbor had claimed he felt threatened by my dad when my dad confronted him. The sheriff said not to worry, they deal with him a lot. If there's a problem in the future, call them first. All this leads up to last month. Our house is about 70 years old. My parents have gotten to a financial standpoint where they plan on residing the house and adding on. The paint had begun to peel, and they decide to leave it because very soon it'll be replaced anyway. So I was out back working in the yard when a very angry son of the owner shows up and asks why the house hasn't been painted. Of course, he's just like his dad and doesn't listen to reason. About a month later, we get a notice in the mail to paint the house from the township, so my parents paint the house. They finished yesterday, and the look on the neighbor's face was well worth it. The whole house is painted in white and pink stripes. We're waiting on a call from the township. All the worst things about living in an HOA without actually living in one. Personally, I'd file a harassment complaint against him. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.